Okay, so whereas we talked about prosocial behavior for our last chapter, for chapter 10, we're going to be talking about aggression. And so again, if you kind of look at this, the columns here, this corresponds with a learning objective from each of the sections from the chapter. And so we're going to go with perspectives for 100. Which theories propose that external conditions arouse a strong motive to harm others? What is drive theories? Okay, so perspectives for 200. Scooch this over here so you can see it. Alright, what theory suggests that if a person is impeded in reaching a goal he or she is seeking, then this impediment will lead to a stimulation of a drive whose main goal is to harm some person or object? What is the frustration-aggression hypothesis? So this is the suggestion that frustration is a very powerful determinant of aggression. Okay, so perspectives for 300. After watching wrestling on TV for an hour, 5-year-old Samuel went outside to play. When 5-year-old Jamie, who lives next door, came outside, Samuel shoved him and tried to get him in a headlock. This situation can be best described or explained by what is the social learning perspective. Okay, perspectives for 400. James tends to become aggressive whenever anyone slights her or insults her. Her friend Jolene, however, never seems to become upset or angry at the same kinds of provocations and is generally not an aggressive person. The ways in which these two people might react to the same provocation is best explained by what is the general aggression model. And for 500, which of the theories is the most complex theory of aggression? So we've talked about drive theories, the frustration-aggression hypothesis, the social learning perspective, and the general aggression model. Of those, the one that is most complex is the general aggression model. Okay, and so there was so much information contained under the causes section that I went ahead and just did 2 columns, causes 1 and causes 2. So causes 1 for 100. Paul is studying for a test in biology. He's somewhat concerned about his ability to master the material and is trying to concentrate as much as he can. Sam, his brother, has interrupted his studies several times, causing Paul to become frustrated and angry. When Sam again enters Paul's room, Paul pushes Sam hard and threatens to punch him. This situation illustrates the frustration-aggression hypothesis. So this content is in a couple of different places in the first beginning of the chapter. And so here we have an example for that. Causes for 200. James and William are discussing the last presidential election. James, a Democrat, has made some very negative comments about Republicans and the way in which the campaign was conducted. William, a lifelong Republican, has told James to tone it down, but this seems to encourage James to make even more negative comments. Eventually, William pushes James away and starts to throw a punch. This situation might be best seen as a case of provocation. Okay, causes for 300. Sarah was driving home after a particularly difficult day at work when someone cut her off and almost caused her to wreck her car. Still shaken from her near miss, she arrived home to find that her spouse had not yet started dinner, as he had promised to. Sarah angrily accused him of being a lazy bum and started an argument with him. This situation can be best explained by what? What is the excitation transfer theory? All right, causes for 400. The general pattern of results of studies of TV violence suggests that media depictions of violence contribute to increased aggression levels in viewers. Causes for 500. According to recent research, why do people like to play violent video games such as Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, and games like that? What is? Because they like opportunities for independence and competence. It feels good to be able to navigate the game, and it's reinforcing to do well in it. Causes 2 for 100. Playing violent video games and then not being shocked by actual violence illustrates what? What is desensitization? All right, for 200, people high in this bias tend to attribute even innocent actions by others to the fact that they are hostile. What is the hostile attributional bias? Okay, causes for 300. What is the relationship between gender and aggression? What is men are more likely to engage in direct aggression and women are more likely to engage in indirect aggression. So an example of indirect aggression would be like malicious rumors. Okay, so for 400, what is the relationship between alcohol and aggression? What is? Alcohol increases aggression, and this is true irrespective of gender. Finally, causes for 500, what is the relationship between temperature and aggression? What is? As temperatures increase, violent crimes such as aggravated assault and homicide also increase. All right, classroom and workplace violence for 100. What are the traits of bullies? What is? They have callous attitudes towards others. They tend to occupy a higher status. They tend to be anxious, depressed, and have high social intelligence. So, what are the characteristics or traits of victims? They tend to be lonely, withdrawn, have few friends, and are unhappy. How do contextual factors like families, schools, and communities influence bullying? What is? If there's a lack of supervision in school or by parents, if there's a school atmosphere that is conducive or condones bullying, or if there are unsafe communities like gang violence, for instance. Okay. For 400, each night at midnight, Daryl's phone buzzes when a text message arrives from an unknown number. The text messages he receives say things like, "Watch your back," and "One of these days we're going to get you," and "You'll never see it coming." At first, Daryl tries to ignore these messages, but now he has anxiety about going to school each day. What is Daryl a victim of? What is cyberbullying? Okay, and for 500, how can enlisting the help of bystanders reduce bullying in schools? The bystanders can be encouraged to report it to teachers and to refrain from showing positive reactions toward the bully. Basically, if kids show approval, that encourages escalation, and the bully ups their ante, if you will, against the victim. All right, so how can aggression be prevented for 100? The 4 requirements necessary for punishment to reduce aggressive actions are what? So punishment has to be prompt, it has to be certain to occur, it must be strong, and it must be perceived by recipients as justified or deserved in order for punishment to be effective. All right, for 200, how can internal restraints against aggression be strengthened? What is? By being exposed to non-aggressive models, receiving training, being taught to recognize when cognitive resources are being stretched. So basically what we're talking about is self-regulation, the ability to control oneself. All right, so prevention. All right, for 300. All right, Trina received a poor quarterly appraisal of her work performance, and by the time she gets home from work, she's so upset that she wants to throw and break something. However, instead, she decides to go for a hard 5-mile run. When she gets back from the run, she feels better and her anger has evaporated. Trina's reduction in aggression can be explained by the catharsis hypothesis. Okay, and for 400, what does research on the catharsis hypothesis demonstrate or suggest? That it actually might increase aggressive behavior. So the catharsis hypothesis suggests that providing people with an opportunity to express aggressive impulses in a safe manner will decrease their tendencies to engage in unacceptable forms of aggressive behavior, when in fact it likely encourages rumination and increases aggressive behavior, essentially. And then finally, for 500, why is it recommended to count to 10 before we lose our temper? What is? Because it changes the focus of one's thoughts. Inducing feelings or responses incompatible with anger can sometimes reduce overt aggression. And that concludes Chapter 10.